Hello, this is Gene. It's Friday before the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to say who I want to win because the last I said something last week or 2 weeks ago, the teams I wanted to win didn't win. So anyway, what I want to talk about today is about the abortion debate right now. And I also want to just say this. I did a couple videos that I responded to Owen Benjamin, and I stand by those videos. But the thing is, I really like a lot of the things that he says, and I'm with him in a lot of areas. So I watched him last night, and this thing kind of like comes back around again. He talked about abortion, and he talked about how we as men are allowing this to happen. That women in our country in the West don't respect us because we don't stand up for life. That deep down, when they see a man that does not stand up for life, that something inside of them realizes that they don't really want to mate with this person. Now, I don't think this is a majority of true, but I think it's true to a point. And why it is because women will, at the end of the day, will follow the dominant male. They will. That's how it's always going to be. Women will never be, at least unless we continually can do what we're doing in our bodies, and men have more testosterone or less testosterone and all that stuff. Maybe they'll be will be equal, but it isn't going to be at least, well, not unless science changes us through some sort of revolution that way. Women will always be looking to men to provide and protect, and also to carry on, have babies and stuff. And there's a thing that happens to women when they realize that a man doesn't really care about life. Deep down, they're like, why would I mate with this person? So Benjamin really called it out right now, and I've said this many times on my channel that I don't think that we don't hold women responsible. But he called out men. And as a MRA, anti-feminism that I've always been, I think he's right here. And the reason why he's right is because we've allowed this to happen. We can go all the way back to when we gave them the vote, because it was an all-male chamber that allowed that to happen. And most people who were voting at that point obviously were men. If women didn't have a whole lot of property back then. So, and people will always say that was the baddest thing we ever did. But regardless of that, when we're talking about life and we're talking about abortion, that we've given them this long rope that they can continually go on to, and they always continually take more and more and more. And they just have this idea that if you have any comment on it, that now we're in their space and no man should be able to have any comment about it. They can't even talk about it. I was watching Tucker Carlson, and this woman kept saying, Tucker, you're trying to say that you're going to ruin, excuse me, run women's bodies. And, as good as he can at his way he can retort back, I mean, he still has to be, he is kind of like pushed into this area because we've allowed this to happen. We have not checked our women for so long that we just continually just say, you know what, I'm not going to say anything because maybe at the end of the day, I might get some from this person. So this is a very easy thing to look at. Talking to my friends or my son's friends, they hate men. They're like this when you talk about women. They hate like male feminists, people that are always around. These are the kind of guys that are always in the friend zones. So they'll never would mate with somebody like this. And they go to guys that, for whatever reason, that something that fires up inside this woman. And this idea is, and I don't know how I'm going with this, but the idea is this: men should never allow their woman to have an abortion. If you know that you impregnated a woman and she comes to me and says, I want an abortion, you tell her no. And Owen said that last night, and he's absolutely right, because at some point we have to stop this, because we can't ask women to be responsible here. We said, hey, we got 18 or 22 different types of birth control, and you're still complaining that at the end of the day that you want an abortion in the last part of your pregnancy, because you didn't have the responsibility early on to take that birth control or demanding to your partner to put on a condom, so we wouldn't be in this position. So This is the same thing I talk about when talk guns rights. It's like the left wants to look at who actually has just a gun at the end and doesn't look at why that person got to the point where he's using that gun. Now, most of the people who are killed with a gun commit suicide, but they just don't really care about what happened before that. They're like, let's stop guns. So when we have this conversation about abortion, they're saying we got to stop everything because now it's you're killing a baby because a baby's outside the room. And yes, that's true, but why are we allowing this to happen? So we can sit here and wait for 100 years for women to be responsible in this area, and how society is telling them they can do whatever they want to do, or we have to check women individually. Obviously, I'm older. If I was younger and I was going to be in a relationship, and we got to a point where we were being very serious, and I would definitely tell the woman, I said, there'll be no, if we get pregnant, there's no way I'm going to allow you to abort the baby. Now, all the feminists might come and say, oh, God, no, she can do whatever she wants to do. Let me tell you what happens with a woman. If you check them in the right, respectful way, they will listen to you. They will understand that what you're doing is right, and you basically, that your power, your authority comes from God. And whether you're religious or not, if you really think about it, men are supposed to run the house. Women are supposed to nurture the next generation. And if women decides that, hey, I want to be out and work, most healthy relationship says you wait until the babies are actually big enough to go to school, and then the women go to work. That's the best way that we did. And what's happened in this country, and unfortunately some of the great thinkers of this time still believe this, that have been given so much pub in the last 2 years, like Jordan Peterson, they basically turn their back on the traditional way of Europeans raising their family. And they think that when we talk about we want to make sure that our culture stays together, that somehow that's problematic. So there's a guy like Jordan Peterson, and I'll put a video that I heard the other day, the dismantling of Jordan Peterson below. I'll find it and put it there. And it talks about how although he's considered like a darling of the left or the right, which he's not really. He's a Canadian right person, but he's not really. He worked for the UN, and there's so many things in the background that you understand about him. But when it gets to the point where he's worried about that, he knows that the left is so fragmented because they all have anti identity politics. You have black people, gay people, trans people, and they can't really be all together. And especially if you're a white, you can't really be a white woman, you can't really be an ally there because you still have all this privilege and stuff. So he knows that on the side of the nationalisms or populism, that we have one core belief, that we should be able to be preserved, our traditions should be preserved, the nuclear family should be preserved. And he knows that this entity on this side could definitely, when it comes down to it, could destroy this. And he's really more aligned with that side because he believes, and we talk about this all the time, and the greatness of the West is the idea of the individual. Okay, that's great. It's okay for his interventional rights and all that stuff, but we're all part of the collective. Whether we want to believe that or not, we are. So, and the only collective that they don't want to actually get back any type of power are people from European descent, because they think we're going to round up all the other people and kill them. I mean, if you just go online, you could see the stuff he said about like this. He said, and the people on the right, on the far right, they have all the guns, and if things go back, they're going to be doing all this stuff. Well, there's going to be a moment that this might actually happen, and this is why people like me and other people are talking about this, because we don't want it to get to that position or that outcome. We want us to understand, hey, we have every reason to say that maybe the immigration policies in this country are bad, and why can't we have a wall and stuff like that. If you continually say that we're the problem, at some point we're going to fight back. And or not. I mean, the idea that, they've done so well with cucking our young men because they don't have the ability to tell their women this is how it's going to be. And I really don't care if anybody watches this. Obviously, I don't have a big following. But if any feminists or any women get on here and they get offended by the fact what I'm saying, they know I'm right. They absolutely know it. No, women do not like men that can't make up their mind, that they're not forceful when it comes to it. They want a man that's going to protect them. I'm not saying that women can't be independent and can't learn how to use a gun, who can't go out and learn how to fight. But at the end of the day, a guy like me, I'm around 200 pounds, and I'm an older dude, but I don't really give a shit. If some, like Ronda Rousey came up and did something to me, and if I got one punch in to her before she put me down and choked me out, I think she'd go down. You have to understand this. I'm not the strongest person in the world, but right now I probably have more strength than she has. And I watch her on wrestling, and she's got a lot of unbelievable strength for a woman her size. She's probably about 160 now. She's not cutting down to 135, but or probably 150, I'd say. So, I mean, women, and look, I mean, she married a guy that's 6'9". So, women want this type of idea that they're going to be protected. And we can look at all the studies that says that women are so depressed right now because they do not have men in their life that are guiding them. And whether you want to believe in religion or not, women need that. Men need a goal to go to. Almost, and I think Owen Benjamin actually talked about this. And again, I've did a couple of videos about him, disagreeing with him, but he's 100% right here. Men have to have orders, and they need to understand that they have value. So if you do something for somebody, you have to be not rewarded, but just know that you've done a good job. We're like a dog in a lot of ways. It currently is that way. But if we don't have that, we just wander around, and we just don't really do anything. Now again, I'm talking stereotypically. Let's remember, being stereotypical doesn't necessarily mean that's bad. I mean, it is what it is. There's a reason why we had that stereotype. Women on the other ways, they're more empathetic, more nurturing, will listen, more manipulative, of course. But they need someone to, when the decision comes, you have to give that decision to them. You have to say, this is how it's going to be, and she will follow. She will step lockstep right behind you. So when we talk about abortion, and as bad as it is, because women do not take a responsibility for their own bodies, even though they want all the laws to say that it's their body, their choice, they take no responsibility, whatever it is. And we can talk about that, and we talk about false accusations and the family court and all this stuff. The culture has allowed this to happen, and almost universally, it was men that allowed this to happen. So we have to stand up and say this is how it's going to be, respectfully, not to say it from a misogynist point of bird. I'm here to bring it out there in a bigger area to basically amp it up. Obviously, I wouldn't tell my wife that you're going to do this. I would have a conversation with her and say, this is how it's going to be. I said, I don't, again, when we first got married, I had this conversation with her. I said, ain't no way. When my son, Kyle, was born, the doctors over in England said he could have been aborted because he had abnormalities for it. And I just looked at the doctor and said, get the fuck out of here. I mean, no, there was never a point in my life that I was ever going to abort something that I had part of. I wouldn't do it. So when we do this, and when I talk about this country has lost its collective soul, and the West has left collective soul, when we bill or killed our babies before they come out, what is that? At some point, we have to wake up. And women are not going to do this. Some women will, like Karen Strawn or people like that, although I think she's probably pro-choice. But I think she realized that maybe after the first trimester, this should not be happening. But we can't continually just say, women, please wake up. Please understand what we're going through on the other side. Even though that this whole society is against white men, please wake up and do. They're not going to do it. We have to force it. Not killing them or physically doing it, but leading by example, saying when we're talking about stuff like this, we are not going to do it. When we're talking about going to the voting booth, you have a conversation with your wife and say, look, this is what's best for our family. Whether you are empathetic to the refugees, we have to do this from a family standpoint. And if each family did this, or people did this, it would make things so much better. So, before I leave, when I talked about this, and I talked about suicides in many of my videos before, and I did videos where I just yelled at women all the time about this, saying, when are you going to take responsibility? I know this is never going to happen unless we do it first. We're going to get blamed for it, and we're going to get the approval for it. Actually, we'll be blamed for it. But if we somehow change the narrative, and women stop having abortions, and we do less and less and less and less, and the women will be so much more happy because of this. If we decide that it's not that important for you to go to work and work as much as the man or more than the men, and they're back at home and they're raising babies, and all of a sudden their health care and their depression will go down, and they won't be using health care as much, and this country will bring back its collective soul, whether you do it through spiritual or you just do it, whatever. There's something that's lost in this country in the West, and part of it is the fact that we're allowing this to happen. I might not be around, but I know this is going to happen. Whether it's going to be some sort of roar here because of this, or in the future, we're going to look back at this time and say, how the hell did we allow ourselves to do this? Why are we killing innocent life? It makes no sense. And when people just get so upset when women get so triggered, like the girl did on Carlson, they can't just answer a question without saying that men is causing all these issues. Well, okay, maybe, and then I just want to say, why the fuck didn't you have a fucking condom on the guy, and why didn't you have birth control? Why are we waiting till now? Don't you have responsibility at all? And I'm like, this is my mind going back to all the stuff I talked about before, and what I see in the society. But they're not going to change unless we lead the way. They need men to lead the way. And as Owen said last night, I said, if it ain't going to be Europeans, it's going to be the Muslims. It's going to be in Europe first, and you're going to see women are going to go that way because they'll be checked, and they want to be checked. In a lot of ways, they do. Now, there are some that want to come out of that and take off the burqa and all that shit, but most of them still follow those rules. They understand that, and they like the structure in that. Whether we think that it's primeval or medieval for what they do, they've been doing it for a long fucking time, and the women still support that. I'm not saying it's good or wrong, or bad or good. There's always a common ground, but we've lost the Western white man we've lost our balls. We've lost the ability to just push back on this stuff because we're so worried that we're going to be called something. Now, I'm past all that, but when I see a sitting governor from a state basically in the South, in Virginia, the saying that basically it's okay to do this, and at the end of it, nobody puts that on there. It says, but no male legislator should really should tell a woman whatever to do her body. I'm like, really? Oh, so she can just, if she's a pilot, should she just have as many beers before she decides she's going to be flying that plane? Because why should I tell her what she should do to her body? This is that type of guy needs to be outed, needs to be voted out of office, should be shamed 200%, and we should say this is not the man that we should be following. And I will tell you this, women do not respect that. They don't respect that, saying men don't have any say when it comes to, what the fuck? We helped made that fucking baby. We do have a fucking say. I don't care if the law says we have it or not. We have a say. And if a woman is with you and she respects you and she loves you, if you tell her this is the way it's going to be, she isn't going to have an abortion. As like I said, Owen was 100% true with this. If she wants to be with you, and you say no fucking way, you're not doing anything to my baby. Now, we can talk about, somebody actually put it in the comments during his stream, because he does it where only members can actually talk back to him, and I'm not a member. And it's weird because on YouTube, I can't, the iOS doesn't work, so you have to go on a normal CPU to become a member. He said there was a study that like 35% of women have a baby not with their partners. Now, that's true. This was happened like in Georgia, they did this, and it was like 30%. When they were doing paternity tests, that women had babies from other guys. That's another issue. It's because we allowed women to just become so degenerate for all this stuff that we just allowed it. Well, most of us like, fuck it. That means there are more women for me. Instead of saying, you know, I'm not going to fuck around on my brother here. And if I see that she's doing this shit, I'm going to tell him and check this woman's behavior. The idea that women are just so much better because they've had a sexual revolution in this country is laughable. Women are more depressed than in the history of all time. And it could be technology or whatever, but it's basically this. It's because they're not raising babies. They're not being mothers. They're not staying at home and building the home itself. The nest, it has to be that the man comes back and helps with that. But the woman is doing this, and it's so important to female nature. Again, there are outliers. Guys or women are more alpha. It's true. My wife is an alpha, but she's clearly the best time in her life when she was most happy is when she was raising the babies from birth to 4, 5, 6 years old. Now she's stressed all the fucking time and all this other stuff. And it's clearly that. I mean, I made the mistake because she wanted to have more babies. And I was afraid because the last baby we had was Kyle. And I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want us to have another baby like that. And I probably should have listened to her. You know, I should have said, this is probably that would make her more happy. And I see when she's around the other people that have grandbabies that she wants to have that. So I failed on that. But I'm going to allow. This talk that I'm having with you. I'm going to have that with my son as well. And I'm going to say, understand this. You have to make sure you get a good job. And if she wants to have babies, you have to support that and not wait till you're 30 or 40 or 50 to have babies. You need to do what you're supposed to do. Take my line, move it along, and earn, as Jordan Peterson says, that we don't have any earn for us. Fuck that, we do. That's a thing that Owen's the same thing. As much as I like what he had to say about the abortions and stuff, and men have to step up and say this is how it's going to be. Some of the other stuff, I'm just not with him on. I know I've talked for a long time. That happens with this. But I'm very passionate about this. And I really think that instead of just always looking at the law that's coming into existence, I don't care about the law. I really don't. If we can change the culture and we say to women, this is how it's going to be, and we do it respectfully, and when you marry somebody, you make sure this conversation happens, and this will not be an issue, that women will have all these abortions all the time. And of course, that's really more in the European white side. When it comes to the blacks, they have to do something about the single mothers there. And I don't know how to fix that. I wish I could, but I can't. But that's all I have today. I'll talk to you guys after the Super Bowl, see what happens. I don't think I'm going to watch it, really. If it's close, I might watch it at the end just to see. Because if I do that, that means, of course, Brady will win it. I just want a good game. And I'm not going to watch because I know they've got a lot of stupid commercials, basically talking about how great it is to be interracial or intersexual and all this bullshit I don't want to talk about. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please share this, like it, have comments below. I will listen to anything you have to say. I've had a couple comments. They don't really say anything bad about what I say. They just say because I wear Florida State stuff that now I'm an embarrassment to Florida State. That's not really an argument, taken from a famous Jew. If you have any constructive criticism, or you don't think that my points are valid, then fine. I will listen to what you have to say, and I'll take it on board. I'm an older man. I've seen a lot of things. I know what really affects women when it comes to this. They do not men that are just waffling around, that don't have any goals in life, and they want some guy that will make a decision. And I've had this struggle in my own family because I don't make that decision as much as I should. Because I don't want to offend her in some way. And she's very that way too. She doesn't want, Anyway, I could talk about this forever. You guys have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye.